right vibe, baby.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. One story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Cup of Joe Show. I'm your host, of course, Joe, and I'm very excited to have my California friend Shelby C here. Shelby's journey in sobriety began on August 22nd, 2015, and has been blooming, quite literally, ever since. Originally from North San Diego County and now living in Lancaster, California, Shelby has built a life rooted in recovery, love, and lots of sunshine. Shelby is married to her best friend and rock, Scott, who you may remember from his own powerful episode. Together, they're a recovery power couple sharing a beautiful blended family, including her bonus son, William, and a whole crew of adorable nieces and nephews who keep her auntie heart full. When she's not sponsoring women in the program, you might find her in the garden, enjoying the ocean, cricket crafting. Just had to learn how to pronounce that one. I figured she might be proud of me for that. And being a proud cat mom to Ginger. Shelby's story is one of grace, growth, and giving back, proving that a life in recovery is not just possible, but deeply fulfilling. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. How are you doing today, Shelby?
Good morning, Joe. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on to share your experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what was it like growing up, Shelby?
Oh, growing up, it was hard. Being born a redhead, that was always hard, right? Like, because we were like, gingers have no souls, the nicknames. But growing up, I grew up with, an older brother, and he's also a ginger, and a single mom. So growing up in North County, it was interesting because there was always that emptiness, of like, who am I? What am I supposed to be? I always want to be different because I hate being who I am in my true skin. So, but it was also good because having my grandparents around, they helped raise me and my brother, and an aunt that pretty much gave up everything to help raise us too, because raising two redheaded crazy children is not easy. So, you don't know what you have until you no longer have it. But it was hard growing up, honestly, Joe. But I wouldn't change it for anything.
That when I know it's hard when you say it's hard growing up and you didn't feel comfortable in your skin, and what were some of the stories you were telling yourself about that? I mean, sometimes we internalize things that people say on the outside, and
well, I already suffered from like low self-esteem, low self-worth at a really early age. So when people would, call me names and all that stuff, I would tell myself, like, I'm just not worth it. Like, I need to change my identity. I need to change who I am, because obviously this isn't good enough. Kids are jerks. You know what I mean? And I had my awkward stage really early on. So, it was just like, what can I do to fit in? How can I fit in? Because I have the image of, well, I have a single mom, and I don't have the whole happy family white picket fence dynamic. I'm my brother's little sister. I'm always named by something else. So I have to make a name for myself. And you're going to hear about that.
So how did you make a name for yourself?
Well, that's later on.
I hear you.
That came way later on because, it was hard. Growing up,
Yeah.
it was my dad, he was an addict, and he was absent out of our lives, for most of our lives, except for when I was 8. And I told my mom, I want to go live with my dad, like, because it was an abusive household, mentally, physically, emotionally, from what I remember, right? My stepdad wasn't the best. And so I said, I want to go live with my dad. So I would always find my dad, even though he's like us, and like, we know how to run, man. We run from everything. And so I found him, and my mom was like, okay, here you go. But, it's interesting because I always said, I'm never going to be like my dad. I'm never going to be like this. And sure as hell, I turned out a lot like him. So I made a name for myself. I made names, I was like, oh yeah, I'm living by his name now. So it wasn't the best. It really wasn't. Maybe some nicknames too. Ginger Snap, Red Baron,
Yeah, awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
it wasn't cool.
when was the first time you felt the effects of drugs or alcohol? Like, how old were you
Oh,
when?
I was in middle school. So my mom was working nights on Camp Pendleton, and my brother decided to have a house party, and it was Jack Daniel's Punch. It was one of those 4-packs. And I was like, oh, that's fruity. But I remember I took that first sip. That's what I can remember. That first sip, and I drank the whole 4-pack, and I was lit. Blackout drinker from the jump, and oh my God, I could breathe again. It was the best thing ever. It was so good.
Did like, looking back, were there warning signs that you might be at risk to, was there anything like, I was talking to somebody once, and actually it was my wife who told me, and she says, she can remember getting a pack of gum and like literally within 3 minutes eating the whole pack of gum. Like, she was addicted from, had that
Yeah.
type of behavior from, were there any signs like that in your life?
I mean, so there were physical signs, and then there were like verbal signs, right? Like, so I love sweets. I mean, we have addictive personalities on both sides of my family. So like, my mom tried to control some things, so we would go balls to the wall. One was never enough, whether it was ice cream or candy or anything, right? Honestly, anything. But my mom always told us, and I find this funny after getting sober, I laugh about it, and I always talk about this, and anytime I share my story is, she would say, Shelby, we have alcoholics on both sides of our family, so we really need to be careful. So it's a red flag if you're wanting to drink, right? So, but if it's a social setting and you're not really wanting to drink, then it should be safe. And so on something of those terms, right? And I look back at it now, and I'm just like, what a joke, because whether I want it or not, a true alcoholic, which is me, I need it no matter what. I'm going to drink no matter what. And so that was my sign. And I would justify, well, I'm socially drinking. Here's your sign. Like, it's fine. So those were all the signs that I saw. One was never enough, no matter what it was. And you could tell me, oh, well, it's social, but
How did drinking affect like friendships and relationships and all that stuff, and early on,
well, so I liked hanging out with people older than me. So, and I was always much more mature than all my other friends. So, I'm always trying to fit in and like make a name for myself. And I'm not just Steve's little sister. And I remember drinking on base because I had a job out there. I worked at the commissary when I was in middle school. and my uncle was the head bagger. And if you're, military, it's cash only, so we got paid under the table. It was great. My cousin worked there, and, all the older friends, and it was very, all different, what's the word I'm looking for? It's all different ethnicities that we grew up around. And so I just wanted to be accepted. So I drank to be accepted. I wanted to be the cool kid because I was always so nerdy. In band, I was always in band, and I wanted to be the cool kid that had the blonde hair and the the tan, and I was drinking and hanging out with the older kids. So that's how it affected like friendships. And I mean, even before I started drinking, I struggled with friendships. I struggled with any kind of relationship. I didn't know that the ism that I had, you didn't even need alcohol or drugs. It's just, I don't know how to live life sober, period. I don't know how to live in my own skin. So that's how it affected. I mean, I honestly have never had, I have a couple friends from back in the day, still, but I never kept a solid friendship until I got sober in August of 2015, honestly. Why?
I can relate to that. I have one friend from when I grew up that I'm still in contact with, and we grew up next door, but everyone else kind of came and went. But what were some of the biggest lies you told yourself while you were in active addiction, so to speak?
Everybody else is the problem. Love that one. What else? Oh, gosh, everybody's a problem. I'm the victim here. I'm not causing any harm. If only you live the life I live and the trauma I had to endure, you'd be drinking over this too. What else? But also, it was the low self-esteem lies too. Like, I'm not good enough, so this is the only thing that's going to make me worthy. And that, looking back at it, it's like, wow, the delusion was so real. So real. It was insane.
So when did you start, for lack of a better term, like when did you realize consequences? Like when did you have any consequences early on, or did it take time, or?
So, I'm like trying to roll back, right? Like, there weren't really consequences because through like different portions of my time, I would get grounded if I got busted drinking. I stole my mom's. We lived in Oregon for high school. She moved me out of California. I guess that's where my running comes from. Is I followed my mom, and she had to get out of a situation, and so we made Blackberry Everclear, and so the consequences started there because she'd make the mason jars of the Blackberry Everclear. And I remember trying it at like crack noon. She's like, "Here, Shell, try this." And I'm like, "Oh, sweet, I'm drinking at noon." But then I would start stealing the mason jars that she would make for Christmas gifts and bring them to school because I'm not going to go to school, And then I started stealing her pills and selling that, because I got to be cool. So that's when consequences really happened. But it wasn't a lot of consequences, honestly, until I got sober in 2015. I mean, I was married before Scott. I'm like, I'm going to this will fix me, right? That was another lie, I guess. I didn't realize that was one of them. We're going to have a white picket fence life, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to be able to manage and control my drinking. I even told this dude, "Oh yeah, I'm in recovery, whatever," only because I wasn't using another substance, but I'm going to Thirsty Thursdays at the sports bar, and Monday through Saturday I'm out there drinking, but I'm in recovery. I think you're drinking too much, dude. Like, the insanity in the Delulu I lived in was insane. But the consequences, I ruined a marriage. I can only take part in what I did, right? There were consequences to that. by me drinking and using, it brought a lot of damage to that. And my family started really thinking like, what's wrong with you? I got cut off from my grandpa for a little bit because I had a lot of anger issues. I'm a very angry person, Joe, on the natch. But not a lot of people think that. But I really, truly am. It takes a lot of work to like keep that at bay. And so I went off on my mom one day telling her how bad of a mother she was. And if only she was, as like warm and soft as my dad, I think, just awful things. And so my grandpa got wind of that. And he was like, until you get into therapy and get some help, you're not welcome up here. Those were my kind of consequences. Nothing like, you're cut off from the family completely, but hey, you're the problem here. You need to get some help. That was about it until 2014, Christmas of 2014. That's when the real consequences started happening. I still couldn't even realize that because I was so drunk and just high. Like I was full flight from reality, honestly. That's when it really started happening, was Christmas 2014 were the consequences.
Can I ask you what happened on Christmas 2014? Are you okay talking about
absolutely.
that? Okay.
It's a huge part of my story. That brother of mine, we've always had a strained relationship, but my ex-husband, who was my current husband at the time, he loved to call my family when we were fighting, and whether I was drunk or not. And so Christmas morning, we were fighting, and of course I was coming down and fiending and needing a drink, needing, something. And so he called my family and like went out there, and then my brother came on base, and I'll never forget it because he's 3 years older than me. We have a odd relationship, and he was crying. He just said, I want my little sister back. And I said, I'm right here. But the whole time I'm thinking, I need a hit. I need something to make me feel better because I am just crawling in my skin. And I ruined Christmas that year. My brother's almost wife at the time, he was, engaged to his wife now, was about to have a baby, and she was pregnant. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna get right for this baby because I'm gonna be an auntie for the first time to my brother, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and I just kept going down that slippery slope of alcoholism and drug addiction, and ever since that time, it was just worse and worse. And my grandma had to tell me, like, Shelby, you can't come here, like, you are the problem. I was like, Stephen's the golden child. I'm always the black sheep, da 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 da, and just like making it just all about me, that you're the bad guy. I'm not the problem here when I'm clearly insane. And it's just like, it just got worse. And so month by month, each family member had to cut me off. And because they couldn't see what I was doing to myself, it hurt them too much, and then the only family member at that time that I grew up with was my Aunt Judy. She would come down from San Francisco because I was, looking like Puss in Boots and like E.T. My skin was getting gray, and my brother had cut me off. My mom had cut me off. My grandparents wouldn't let me around the house and family functions. And my Aunt Judy would come down and just feed me. And she would just meet me where I was. She would say, let's go out to lunch. Let's go eat. And she's like, what do you want? And we never drank alcohol. Like when we were at restaurants, it was always like a water or a soda. And I'm like, I need a martini or I need a margarita or something. And she would let me get it because she knew I was struggling so bad. And I'm really grateful for that because she remained in a position to be helpful to me. And it really helped when that time came in 2015 of like, okay, Aunt Judy, I need help. But the consequences were I lost, I didn't lose houses, but I lost, my marriage. I told my ex-husband, I'm like, you need to get out of California, because you and I, it's not going to work. Either I'm going to hurt you or I'm going to have you hurt. That's the kind of person that I would do. And I would just root in every single relationship. I couldn't keep a job, unless I was being an entrepreneur, so to speak. I see you laughing, Joe. But that wasn't the kind of entrepreneurship I highly suggest to anybody. It's not a good life to live.
Sorry, I'm. People know I mute myself a lot, and when I laugh, Shelby sees me laughing, but you can't hear the noise, so she's making fun of me. But yes, entrepreneurship. She's yes, I understand. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So what was the turning point? You
Um,
know,
so the turning point for me, I uh, I was living in my car and in hotel rooms with my dog Coquito. He's a huge part of my story. I got him from my ex mother-in-law, and he was my ride or die. And I truly believe he helped save me. God had a purpose for him. When my ex-husband left back to Texas, I kept Coquito in the divorce. I'm like, this is my dog. Your mom gave him to me, and I love that little dog. He was my reason. He was the only thing, that unconditional love, right? And so we were living in cars and couch surfing, and everybody knew we were a package deal. But that turning point was, I believe, well, in May I went to see my best friend's mom take her 20-year cake, and of course we were late because we don't know how to show up on time for anything, and she used to be my anger management teacher also. And she was like, we really, don't fall down this slope, Shelby. And I'm like, whatever, I'm fine. Carter protects me. It's fine. But finally, I was in my car, the car that I bought for my brother. It was a lemon. And I just wanted to die. I had nothing left. My family didn't want to talk to me. My friends weren't wanting to be around me. And I don't know how many substances I put in my body. I know I drank over a bottle of vodka. I popped pills. I had amphetamines and mice and stuff. Just I was trying to die because I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Poquito's in my back seat, and I'm in a parking lot in like the deep of Oceanside, and the next morning I woke up and I said, well, damn, I didn't want to wake up. And so I called Miss Amy and I told her I needed some help. Um, and she was like, well, why don't you stop hanging out with my son? That might be a good start because we were running amok in the streets. Like he was my brother's age and they knew each other from high school. And we were best friends since he got out of the army, and we ran amok for a long time. And I was like, oh no, he protects me, Amy, I swear. And she's like, okay, well, why don't you try to stay sober for today? And I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, I don't know how to stay for 5 minutes. She was like, just try. And so I started saying the serenity prayer. And one of my best friends who was still living on base, I called her and I'm like, I need help, and I called my ex-husband, and I started detoxing. I didn't even know you could detox off of alcohol. Like, I just thought because I like, uppers and I was up for weeks at a time that I just needed a nap and maybe like a slice of pizza or a sandwich. You know what I mean? But I didn't do the medical detox. And that was the most hell, I think, besides living in active alcoholism and addiction, that I will never forget. Like the sweats and not able to eat or drink, and just like it was gnarly. It was so gnarly. So that was the beginning of, the end for me. Like, okay, this is what's turning it over. And I'm really grateful because I think people that go into medical detox, that's the easier, softer way. I mean, I know you need it. A lot of people do need it, but it's like, I'm grateful that wasn't my story, because I don't think if I had something to make me feel a little more comfort, I would have been here still.
yeah, I don't think people realize, coming off of alcohol, is it's really one of the most dangerous detoxes you can do. I mean, it can be deadly, so, gosh, I remember there's so much in your story that I relate to. One is your dog. I had Gracie, who, I think was literally my saving grace.
Yeah.
I mean, she gave me a sense of purpose. And so I completely get that. So, what were kind of the first steps you took after the detox to recover?
Well, I got my ass into rehab. Well, not me. My ex-husband, because he was out of the military at that time. So he was working for a mattress company and he had really good insurance. And so I said, look, I know we're not doing well, but I do need to get into treatment. And I had to get out of San Diego County because my entrepreneurship took me places of, I mean, I was getting, drugs into those treatment centers. You know what I mean? And so I need to get away from where I was, one more geographic, right? And so he found this treatment center up in Palmdale. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm willing. I just need to learn how to not do my own stash, right? Like, I just need to clean up a little bit and I need to learn how to not, do my own stash and drink responsibly. Like, I had no idea what treatment was about. I had only been to one meeting prior, and that was for Miss Amy's cake. And so he found this treatment center. I was like, okay, Afro Man lives up here. I could still smoke weed, like that's cool. I had no idea what, recovery looked like. And so I called my dad because he was in contact. I said, Dad, I need help. I'm becoming like you and I need to go to treatment. And the one person I never thought would show up, he did. And so he picked me up. Of course, he was nodding off when he met me and Poquito. And he brought me to Palmdale and dropped me off to this treatment center. And they gave me this blue book, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I don't need this. I need something else, like the other, fellowship and the green book. And I'm grateful for that owner, that CEO of that treatment center, because he also met me where I was at. And he spoke the language of my heart and where I was and was able to make me feel a little comfort, because I'm crawling in my skin. I don't know how to live in my own skin. And mind you, it's pretty uncomfortable because it's a freaking mansion and I've been living on the streets for a year, right? I'm like, I don't belong here. And all these like trust fund babies, and there's me. I'm not any of that. I'm just a military wife that, chose the street life instead of, everything else that I could have done with my life. So that was the first step. And then after that, it was going to meetings. We had to be, shuttled to meetings and stuff in that treatment center. That was a requirement, and also doing step work. And I'm grateful for all of those things. But I do remember in a group in that treatment center, all these kids are trust fund babies and entitlement. And I'm at my lowest, right? I came in with 2 bags. I had to give my dog to my dad to watch. And me and Poquito, that's, I'm like, can I please have my dog here? Like, this is my everything. This is all I have. And they said, what is it that you want in life? And people are like, oh, I want to have, access to my trust fund. Oh, I want to have access to, my family, all, material things, whatever. And I remember this so clearly and vividly is I went up to that whiteboard and I just want to be free. That's all I want. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what freedom looked like. I just wanted to be free. And that was the stepping stone, I think, to really getting down to the nitty gritty and working towards being free.
Were there what were some of the unexpected challenges? I guess probably all of it's unexpected, but early in sobriety, that you really don't prepare for.
I mean, I went into this so blindly for recovery that I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. But I guess feeling feelings, I didn't know that was going to come. That was one of my hardest like obstacles, was actually feeling feelings. Because again, I don't know how to live life sober, right? Like I don't know how to live life without putting the substance in my body. And anything from the neck up, I have to have so I can, go day by day. And so feeling the feelings was like the biggest thing. Um, Also, another obstacle was expecting that just because I was starting my recovery journey, I expected my family to jump right on board. Um, and not realizing the kind of damage that was caused by my drinking and using. I said for months, I'm like, I'm going to get sober for that little baby. And I couldn't. That frothy emotional peel, right? Like, nobody can get you sober. You have to. Like, you have to get to that level of desperation and willingness and your bottom. And I didn't realize that it was going to take work to repair these relationships. Like, but thank God for strong sponsorship, man. Once I got out of that treatment center, the real work began, and having to go into a sober living and just start all over. Those were some major obstacles because I don't know how to live life. Period. Like I've always had someone give me something. Like I had my ex-husband. I had resources. I was in the Antelope Valley. I knew nobody. And I had to start from scratch and, food stamps, GR, like I was at the low of low. So those were some of the obstacles I really faced that um, really showed me like how willing am I and how far am I willing to go to do this recovery thing. Because ultimately, I told my ex-husband, he gave me the ultimatum, I'll give you alimony as long as you do this program for 6 months. I'm like, bet. Done. Anything to get that money flowing, right? I didn't get the alimony. I got maybe a couple months, but I did get something so much more. And that was that freedom that I was searching for and that sense of purpose, and a whole new version of Shelby that I didn't even know could exist.
How did you begin to or what was kind of the process of rebuilding the trust with your family? I know it was work, but what was some of that like?
Well, it wasn't easy, because when we start recovery, some of those relationships don't get rebuilt. They don't get to be um it takes time, right? And I'm so grateful for the amends process because it's not just about our words, because my words didn't mean shit to anybody, because I was always a liar, even before I was in recovery, before I ever took a drink or a drug, any mind altering substance. I lied. I was a liar, cheat, and a thief. So to have to repair a lifetime of that, because I got sober when I was 28, about to be 29. It's interesting. My sobriety date's actually my brother's belly button birthday, and I didn't even try to do that. And so it's like, how do I repair something with so much damage? And it started with, just calling, calling my mom, calling my grandparents, because my mom was in Washington State. My grandparents were still in San Diego. My Aunt Judy, that was good. My other aunts, my Aunt Christy she was the first person to come up to Lancaster on my birthday and take me out to, breakfast and just see me and visit with me. She was the first family member besides my dad, but on my mom's side to come like really see what I was doing with my life. And so I had to start showing up and changing my behaviors and my actions, because what I try to live by are different principles and values today, and even in my early sobriety, it was not easy because I would say there was a psychosis moment, right? Like, because I was drinking and using for over 10 years. And so it's like, how do you change those behaviors that have been lifelong? You have to do something that's the opposite of that. And my character defects were like glaring, like no other. And once I was able to put pen to paper with a sponsor and like let her hear everything, that all the damage I had done, I was able to have that like aha moment, that awakening of like, one, I'm a piece of shit. Excuse my language, but it's true, and two, I never want to be like that again. So show me how to be a daughter. Show me how to be a friend, because I don't know how to do any of those things. Show me how to be a good wife. That came later because I had to ask for a divorce from that man, like toxic AF. Show me how to show up, and it started with commitments. It started with, picking up cigarette butts at the meeting halls, making coffee. Like, show me how to be accountable, because I don't know any of that. I don't know how, unless it's going to benefit me to where I get something from you, not something that is like this way of life, right? Like, this kind of commitment shows you a whole different kind of level of service. And really, when I'm not thinking about me and I'm thinking about you or the meeting, then my mind's super quiet. And then I'm not running with Shelby self will run riot. So that's how it started. And by doing that, I was able to show it to my family, and take the metro down, once, I think, a year. I was really afraid to go home. So, but it was just actions. They had to see it. And then owning up to my wrongs and making the effort to make it right with them in any way, shape, or form. I was willing to go the extra mile no matter what, because that's what I was taught.
So you mentioned character defects. So for someone out there who's maybe not in recovery,
Yeah.
what are character defects, and what do they mean in recovery when we talk about them?
So for me, character defects are my flaws, right? My personal flaws that I struggle with. I'm bringing it down to layman's terms, because it's like, if you're not in recovery, you don't know, right? So for a normie, it's like, these are the things that bring me down, on an everyday level. And I have to do the opposite of what it is. So I'm super selfish. So I need to be selfless. That's what it means. I am like, I'm super dishonest. I need to practice honesty in my life. And not in a way of like, I struggle with this because I'm very black and white. So it's like, I have to have a little tact with it, right? Honesty, not in a blunt way to where you're causing more damage, but I have to stay true to who I am and find out who I am, right? If I'm being super inconsiderate in a situation, then I need to start practicing being considerate, whatever that scenario is. And that's for me to bring it down to like, beginner level. That's what a character defect is. How do I practice the opposite of what I'm doing, and everything I do cause damage. It really does. And if I'm not God-centered, it's like God's will or my will, and God's will always feels good for me. And that's how I know it's not my character defects running the show. And it's, but when it's like, ooh, you have that little like knot in your stomach or that ick feeling, that's how I know it's me. And those are my character defects running wild.
That's such a great way to put it, Shelby. You made me think when my daughter was little. Of course, she loves SpongeBob, and they had a whole episode on SpongeBob of opposite day. And I'm like, that is how I have to act every day. Is the opposite of what I think is probably a good idea was probably the real idea I should be doing. So.
Right? Like, ooh, because I had to bring it down like that. I'd go to a lot of meetings in my early sobriety and like, what is God's will? People would ask that. And I would ask questions at meetings like, how do you know? Because I need to know. I'm a visual learner, but also, when people broke it down like that, I'm like, oh, that's okay. Got it. We could do that. That's easy, but it's not.
Right. Yeah. It's no, it takes work, like you said.
Lots of work.
And it's but the payoff is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So what helped you stay committed to recovery when, on the tough days, especially early on? How did you stay committed?
So I obviously worked the steps, honestly and thoroughly, because the old timers in the meetings are like, well, you need to find out, where the problem is. Because I remember I wanted to know where the problem was. But that treatment center got us to meetings, and I'm really grateful for that because my feet were trained. My sponsor was like, you need to go to these meetings and this and that, because I know everybody's recovery is different, right? Like people either go to programs, fellowships, or they go church based. I don't judge any of it, whatever works for you. But for what worked for me was getting a sponsor and working the steps and, honestly and thoroughly. And having those commitments, honestly, because I had a purpose. The meeting, my ego was like, well, the meeting's counting on me. I need to keep that hall clean, Also, the boys, not going to lie, my sponsor's like, whatever gets you to the meeting, because there was one meeting I was going to, and she's like, this is not the healthiest for you. And I don't know what's healthy or not, in my early sobriety. I don't know. I'm used to rough housing and like that hood stuff because the person that is sitting here today is not the same person I was 10 years ago. I was towards the end of my run 10 years ago, and I would wear like a bandana and my cutoff shirt and rep Oceanside um, and so I remember my friends were like, well, why don't you go to this meeting instead? There's a lot of cute boys. And that kept me going because I'm like, hey, you're cute. Whatever works, right? Like whatever keeps you coming back. And so I'm like, oh, I like this. And I'm really grateful for that because the cute boys, that was good. But what was even better was that meeting, which is actually our brother house of my sponsorship family. And they talk about intensive work, doing the deal. And it's kind of changed throughout the years as it does, like anything does. But it's still the same. Like, do the work, help others, clean house, and keep it going. Like trust God, clean house, help others. That is what we have to live by if we want to do this thing. And I heard the music there. I'm trying not to, put fellowships and stuff, but I heard the music of recovery in there. And I stayed and I earned my freaking seat there. And I started working with others right away. I think it took about 6 to 7 months for me to get through all 12. And when my sponsor was like, okay, now it's time for you to start helping others, intensive work with others is going to keep you here. And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't think, I don't know if I can do this, like I did every step blindly. I had no idea what was in store for me, but I did it to the best of my ability at that time. And she's like, well, now it's time to give it away. I was like, I don't think I can't share like that person does, I don't know how to cry. And she was like, Shelby, your story's not going to touch everybody, but it may touch somebody, but you need to be able to share. Stop being selfish. I'm like, rude. Okay, I'll try, like I'll try. And instead of trying, I just did. And then I started raising my hand and sharing and building those connections and building the fellowship I craved, and I found my tribe. I found my tribe. And that's what kept me going, always wanted sisters growing up, and my sponsorship family, we have something so rare. The bond of women that we have from all different, lifestyles and, all of it. We're all so different, but we all have something in common, and those are some of the best women and best friends I've ever had in my entire life. And they've kept me accountable when the hard things come, I said when I got sober, if any of my parents die, I'm getting loaded. If Poquito dies, oh, you're gonna lock me up in a institution, and like I won't be able to stay sober through all that. But I lost a dad in sobriety. I stayed sober because my feet were trained. I knew where to go, and I went home, and that was to me. We left a friend's wedding. Actually, I was with Scott at the time, and we left a friend's wedding when I got the call, and changed real quick, and I went straight to my home group. And I'm so grateful because we call him Papa. He opened that sober living. That then they had a meeting there, and he was able to talk to me, and he was like, well, who's hurting more, Shelby? I was like, well, it was my dad, because I'm so selfish. Even at 4 years sober, I'm like, that was my dad. Who else? And I'm like, well, I guess my stepmom. Put in the work to help her, try to comfort her and be helpful. Remain in a position to be helpful. What? And so I did. I try to follow suggestion and direction so that I can keep staying on this side of the street. Because I never want to go back to that, Shelby. I see reminders on Facebook, Joe, and it's like, ew. There's no life in that person. There's no joy. There's no nothing. So I'll keep doing what I need to do here to stay. And that, no matter what, I will do whatever my sponsor suggests I do, because this is life or death for me.
Shelby has a really cool shirt that, of course, you all you can't see, but it says "Girl Gang," and I know it's
support your sober girl gang.
Yeah, it's a really cool shirt. So I'm grateful. I'm in the same. I have such an unbelievable group of men, including your husband, who have just they saved my life, and continue to teach me how to live. So I just think it's the fellowship, with other human beings is so important, so important.
It really is.
So what are some of the best things that have happened to you since you've been sober?
Okay, so I love sponsoring women. I hated women when I gotten sober and in recovery. My sponsor had to teach me Team Girl, but I love seeing the light turn on into other women, and seeing their lives transform because of doing a few simple things, right? Like that is my ultimate thing, because if I don't have that, I don't have anything else, right? I don't have the outskirts. But I was able to meet my best friend, my husband, in the rooms, and build a really beautiful life with him. He, like in the intro you said it, he's my rock. Like I always said I'm never getting married again, right? I'm gonna live that single life forever because one, I'm good. Two, I'm not gonna be my mom. And that was my thought process early on. But we were able to buy our house last year. He said it too, but homeless to homeowners, like how crazy is that for somebody that lived a life like I did? Because, I lived in cars, I lived in unstable areas, so becoming a homeowner has been really great. Repairing the relationships with my family, that has been one of the biggest gifts because, Scott and I were talking the other day and he's like, what do you want to do for your 10? Because that's really big. And I was like, honestly, I don't care what I do because I don't need anything. Like that brother that cut me off, it took until just January of this year for him to actually want to like talk to me and for me to own up and make my amends to him. And so getting to repair that relationship and regrow that's been huge for me. And it's done something on another level that I never thought would have like ever happened, because I've always wanted my brother in my life. I've always adored my big brother. But I was in full on acceptance and I'm like, God, you're in charge here. And I'm okay that he's not okay with me. I did the damage I did and he's got to protect his family. Right. And I'm just going to keep living by the principles that I live by. And so by doing so in January, I have been able to, that's why I have so many nieces and nephews now, be a part of their lives. And I was just down in San Diego. I told you that, I was like, sorry, I couldn't get my bio over to you. I was in San Diego, right? And I was able to go to the beach with my mom and my brother and his wife and those 4 beautiful babies and have like the best time ever, make those memories for those kids like I did when I was a kid, those safe places. And it was the most amazing thing. What else has been pretty rad about my sobriety and what's happened? honestly, I know who Shelby is today. I'm employable today, and I get to work for, of all things, a police department. And I hold that so high in regard because it's like, wow, this is the proof that if you do recovery, you trust God, clean house, help others, and you do some things and clear the wreckage, you too can find out what you want to be when you grow up. And that's being on the other side of the law, like in the best way possible. So that's been pretty rad. What else? I mean, honestly, there's so much, Joe, that I could say that has been amazing, but ultimately repairing that relationship with my family, um, having Scott in my life, he's truly my rock and like my safe place. And also the friendships I've made here. It's funny, before Scott and I got together, my best friend we called each other the sister wives, but it wasn't the like, sister wives on TLC. Wasn't nothing like that. But we do everything together. She has a couple years less than I do, but that doesn't mean anything. We live the same kind of life. We live this thing one day at a time, but we work a program. We're all about solution based in our life, and I've been able to be best friends with her, be in her wedding. She was maid of honor in ours. Like, I've been auntie to her beautiful girls. And it's like, we have had experience in life, and we get to live life sober, go to casinos, not drink, go to concerts and have the best time, but we get to have fun here. And I'd have to say that's the biggest amazing thing ever. Like, what a blessing. Show up and suit up and do whatever we want to do. We can go anywhere and just have a good time. So those have been my things that I just love and treasure so much.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I have to ask you from, how do you feel in your skin now?
Most days pretty good.
Yeah.
Most days pretty good. I still have those moments of insecurities, right? Like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I overthink like no other, right? It's just how I roll. Scott will be like, stop it, or whatever he does. And I'm so serious, but he lightens that up. But most of the days I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin. I'm aware of what needs to be done so that I can feel comfortable. And when I'm not meditating, not doing what I need to do, because our sponsorship family, it's grown tremendously because of the girls I sponsor, and they now sponsor, and it's beautiful. We have a group chat, and I actually use those quotes that you send me to like guide my meditation for the morning. And start, like my to-do list, my intentions, all of that. If I'm not doing those, because I have intentions, affirmations, gratitude, what else? There's another one. But if I don't do that, I'm not feeling good in my skin that day. You know what I mean? But it's usually I have to get with God. That 11th step is just like where I'm at, like, if I'm not one with God that day, I'm not comfortable in my own skin, and I'm not going to be very helpful to anybody. And poor Scott has to deal with that wrath sometimes. I feel so bad for him. But thank God we both work a program, right? Because it's like we are a sober household, and we have our recovery separate. But if I need help, because I respect the hell out of him and what he has to offer, because he has experience like no other. I'll come to him and be like, do you see it? Like, am I being super selfish right now? Because I don't like feeling that ick anymore, So I would say, yes, I am pretty comfortable. I like the way I live because I'm pretty happy, joyous, and free, which is so cliche. But it's like, life is good. And life is good inside me because I'm good with who I am, because I have a God in my life. If you're not, an alcoholic, don't let that word scare you. That's just what I call, my higher power. But I have a God in my life that solves most of my problems today, and so I'm okay with living in my own skin. And I like that. I like being the like bubbly, crazy redhead of a friend, I'm cool with being a ginge now. I'm all about it. Let's go. Let's have fun.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm glad that you shared that. What if there's somebody out there listening who maybe is feeling hopeless, you know, what would you say to those? What would you say to them?
To anybody that's feeling hopeless in this moment or even later down the line, you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. You never have to feel this way ever again. Um, you just have to reach out for help. The hardest thing to do, right, is you just have to reach out and let us know that you're not okay, and we'll love you until you can love yourself. Um, Come on home. We have a place for you. Like I never thought that was imaginable, but you too can feel the freedom that we all feel by doing something different, and getting sober. So if you're feeling hopeless, come on home. Just take that first step of saying, I need help. And you'll never have to feel the way you're feeling ever again.
That's awesome, Shelby. Is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
I don't know. We covered so much, Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't even tell you the things, like the trauma stuff. Like, there's no point, right? I don't think there is. I mean, the things I went through from mental institution, like, at 8 years old, that's crazy. But it really doesn't matter because I have a solution, and like getting into the solution of life, right? Having a solution to life, and that guide. What else is there to touch on? Like, we get to live this beautiful life and create new friendships and relationships, like getting to meet you last year, and the rest of the crew. What a beautiful thing. I don't know what else to touch on. Like, life is good. Even when it's bad, life is good. It's still better than waking up with a hangover and fiending, Um, I'm safe today. And like, it's, this life is amazing. If anybody's listening, give yourself that shot. Like, you're worth it. Honestly, I didn't think I was worth it, but this life is beyond anything I could have imagined. And I'm not like, living in a mansion or anything. Like, the material things don't matter. It's, what's on the inside. I'm okay with me today, and I'm okay with whatever life throws at me, even if I don't understand it. But if you don't understand, that's okay too. Like, you don't have to right away. Just go with the roll, man. Just roll with all the punches. You can do it.
Absolutely. Well, I can't let you go without doing our rapid recovery questions. If you are ready,
Let's go.
all right. What is your favorite recovery slogan?
Oh gosh, rapid. This is not rapid. Recovery slogan. God is everything or he is nothing.
What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Just don't drink no matter what.
What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
Constant thought of others.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
I'm proud of you.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
It's Lauren Daigle. I think you know what song you say.
I don't know the name, but I know the song because I love Lauren Daigle. I think she's amazing.
That song, when I was questioning God, I'm like, because my dad died and all that stuff, and I realized that God had to get bigger, and that song helped me get my God to be bigger, and that song is on my rotation. I'm like, okay, I hear you, God. So you say, for sure.
Yeah. If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
Help me not be so judgy.
What step do you love the most?
Only one?
What step do you love the least?
Well, first step for sure. That's the hardest, but the best. But my favorite would have to be 11. 11 for sure.
What is one of your favorite movies?
Ooh. Well, it's changed throughout the years, but I have two. For me personally, Little Mermaid,
All right.
right? And then also the Avengers Endgame. Those are like my jams.
All right.
I'm so low at heart. Like,
I love it. I love it.
You know,
it's great,
man. It brings me back to happy times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I've been waiting for you, and I love you.
That's pretty cool. Shelby, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. I know that your story is going to help people, and I know it does help people because you are helping so many. So thank you.
It's been an honor and a privilege. I really appreciate it.
A new episode comes out every Thursday at noon. You can listen to the show in your favorite podcast apps. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the "the." Please follow, like, subscribe, and share because someone out there needs to hear this today. Have a good day, everybody.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's experience, strength, and hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.